Hi, I'm Abby from Ratings.com. We've already reviewed the high-end LG G4, but now it's time to review the mid-range LG C4. How does it stack up against the more expensive G series OLEDs or against alternatives from Sony and Samsung? We're about to find out. We've reviewed the 65-inch model, but our results are also valid for all other sizes. LG C series has always had interesting design elements, and this year's C4 is no different. It has incredibly thin bezels, so thin you barely see them while watching. But the real design magic happens on the TV's back. Look at that stone-like finish. It looks nice and feels grainy to the touch. Of course, most people don't spend a whole lot of time touching or watching their TV's back, but it's a nice little facet that shows LG's attention to detail. The back is, however, made of plastic, so material-wise, it's nothing special. It has the typical plastic housing for the inputs, and all the inputs face towards the right, making them easy to access if the TV is on its stand. But they can be hard to reach if you wall mount the TV. The back has clips through which you can funnel cables, and there's also a clip on the stand to hide the cables behind it. Speaking of the stand, it's identical to last year's C3, so the front-facing part is made of metal while the section facing the back is plastic. The TV wobbles a bit when pushed, but it's minor and quickly recovers. You can't adjust it, but the stand lifts the TV about 2.7 inches above the table, so many soundbars will fit in front without blocking the screen. The TV has 4 full HDMI 2.1 bandwidth ports, and they're all capable of up to 4K at 144 Hz. This is new for LG this year, as previously their TVs were limited to 4K at 120 Hz. The TV's second HDMI port doubles as the eARC port, and it passes through a ton of advanced audio formats, including DTS. So the C4 is a great choice if you've got a truckload of 4K Ultra HD Blu-rays lying around. Otherwise, the TV has 3 USB ports, 1 digital optical audio out port, and an Ethernet port, plus an antenna connection. The TV comes with the 2024 version of LG's WebOS interface. It works well and supports user profiles, letting you customize the homepage for each member of your family. We encountered a bug where you get a black screen on your TV if you've been changing resolutions and refresh rates often in a short time period. The only fix is to unplug and plug the TV back in. But don't worry about this if you're not constantly changing resolutions on your TV, as it's not likely to happen in regular usage. The C4 has ads like every other TV on the market, but it does let you remove some of them. The Home Settings menu has 2 settings, Home Promotion and Content Recommendation. Disabling those removes the top banner ads as well as suggested content from the home screen, which gives your home screen a cleaner and less cluttered look. It's way easier to find your favorite content without a bunch of ads all over the place. There's no way to remove ads from the app page, though. The LG C4 uses the same magic remote as the C3, which uses the same remote as the C2, which in turn uses the same remote as the C1. Basically, we've been using this remote for a while. But hey, it works well, and it's one of the most fully featured remotes on any TV, with a numpad alongside the typical shortcut keys to popular streaming apps. You can use it as a pointer, which is a nice feature, even if many people on the internet complain that it feels like you're using a Nintendo Wii remote. But what's wrong with that? Anyway, the remote has an integrated microphone, as does the TV, so you can use voice commands to change inputs, open apps, and perform searches within apps. Let's talk about picture quality. The LG C4 has remarkable contrast due to its nearly infinite contrast ratio. The TV displays very bright highlights next to perfect inky blacks, and it just looks fantastic in a dark room. The C4 is very bright in HDR, but unfortunately the C series still doesn't have the MLA layer like the G series does, so there's still a big brightness difference between the two. Still, while the C4 doesn't quite hit 1000 nits on small bright HDR highlights, it's very close. It's easily bright enough for well-lit rooms, although large bright scenes are significantly dimmer than smaller specular highlights due to the TV's automatic brightness limiter. That's pretty common for OLEDs though. Sadly, the C4 loses quite a bit of HDR brightness in game mode, or game optimizer as it's called on the C4. What's most disappointing about this is that LG seemingly fixed this issue on the G4, so why is it on this one? The loss of brightness, while not dramatic, is certainly noticeable, so many people might prefer just to stay away from Game Optimizer altogether and use the TV's auto low latency mode to get the lowest input lag while using other picture modes. The TV has exceptional reflection handling, as its glossy screen finish significantly reduces the intensity of direct reflections. Combined with its great HDR brightness, this TV can be placed in any room, no matter how many lights it has. The TV's SDR brightness is also very good. It doesn't get anywhere near as bright as it does in HDR, but it's still bright enough for a pleasant viewing experience in well-lit rooms. Plus, the TV's ABL is not aggressive at all in SDR, keeping any variations in brightness to a minimum. That means your hockey games with their all-white rink won't tank the screen's brightness. Typically, we talk about the viewing angle on OLEDs almost as a throwaway category. It's because OLEDs have the best viewing angles in the industry. They tend to be close to perfect. The LG C4 does have an excellent viewing angle, but it has a green tint, which is noticeable from an angle of about 27 degrees onwards. At wider angles, the entire image turns green. This isn't what we're used to seeing on LG C series, that's for sure. It's still good, but it's not as good as usual. The C4 is at least very accurate after setting the TV to warm 50 and the expert dark space picture mode. There is, however, too much red in almost all shades of gray, and some scenes are brighter than they should be. But overall, it's very solid. It's so accurate in SDR that even purists can forgo calibrating this TV unless they seek absolute perfection. Nice. The C4 has fantastic PQ EOTF tracking, almost perfect. Some shadows and midtones are slightly brighter than they should be, but at this point it really is nitpicking, as that curve is being hugged almost all the way through to the end. With content mastered at 600 and 1000 nits, there's an extremely slight roll-off to preserve detail and bright highlights. It's barely noticeable, but it's there. If you zoom in on the curve, you'll see it. With content mastered at 4000 nits, there is a nice roll-off to preserve details and bright highlights. The C4's color gamut is excellent. It's a colorful TV. Unfortunately for LG, their primary competitors all use QD OLED panels, and those are noticeably more colorful than the OLED panels that LG uses. In isolation, LG's OLEDs are extremely colorful, but in comparison, they falter a little bit. Still, unless you have a QD OLED or a QLED screen laying around, you'll find the C4 to be very vibrant and colorful. We don't know what wizardry LG did on their TV this year, but the G4 and now the C4 both have great image processing. The C4's low-quality content smoothing is excellent, as there's no noticeable macro blocking in dark areas, and details are preserved well. When upscaling low-resolution content, the TV's sharpness processing is very good. Details are very clear, even if fine details can be a little hard to make out. As is usual for OLEDs, there's stutter with low frame rate content. Not everyone notices stutter, but as OLEDs become more popular, more people are transitioning from LED TVs to OLEDs, and stutter is certainly more prevalent on the latter than on the former. It's most noticeable during slow panning shots when watching movies. Luckily, LG's cinematic movement preset in the true motion settings smooths out content without introducing too many artifacts or the soap opera effect. So it's what we recommend if you're bothered by stutter. The TV deals with Judder very well. It automatically removes Judder from all sources when watching movies or shows that are in 24p, even if they're in a 60Hz signal like when watching content from a cable box. You just need to enable the real motion setting, otherwise the TV doesn't remove Judder. The LG C4 is an exceptional gaming TV, although it would be even better if it didn't noticeably lose any brightness in game mode. Anyhow, its response time is almost instantaneous, leading to a very responsive gaming experience. Because of the sample and hold nature of OLED tech, there's still some persistence blur when gaming at 60Hz, but it's extremely minor. OLEDs just kick butt for gaming. This TV also has incredibly low input lag in game mode, even when gaming at 60Hz, although, as usual, it's at its lowest at 120 and 144Hz. It's not like the TV is slow at 60Hz, we just measured around 10 milliseconds at every resolution at 60Hz, and it's faster than most other non-OLED TVs, and even faster than some other OLEDs. But if you're a retro gamer, the TV's input lag is higher when gaming in a 4:3 aspect ratio at 60Hz, so that's just something to consider. This TV supports most common resolutions up to 4K at 144 Hz on all 4 of its HDMI ports. It also supports Chroma 444, although the input label needs to be set to PC first, and then you need to enable the 444 pass-through setting in the HDMI settings menu. The LG C4 is fully compatible with everything consoles have to offer, as it supports 120Hz gaming at all supported resolutions, with HDMI 4 VRR and FreeSync Premium Pro support. It even supports Dolby Vision gaming from the Xbox consoles. It has auto low latency mode, which automatically switches to a low input lag mode when it detects a console. Lately, we've had a ton of good sounding OLEDs, but the C4 isn't one of them. It doesn't sound bad. It's alright, but it certainly doesn't sound as good as the G4 does. It has a well-balanced sound profile, but it doesn't really get loud at all, and there's compression and pumping artifacts at max volume. Luckily, distortion is kept to a minimum, but this is partly due to the TV just not getting all that loud. So, this brings us to the main question. Should you buy this TV? Well, it's complicated. There's an audience out there for the LG C series. Namely, if you're a movie aficionado and you really care about good image processing and features like Dolby Vision and DTS support, then the C4 is right up your alley. It performs better than price-comparable products from Sony like the Sony A80L with image processing that is almost as good. It's also a much better gaming TV than the A80L due to its 4K at 144 Hz capabilities and lower input lag. Thus, the A80L is only an interesting alternative to movie purists who want to watch content in an extremely dark room and who value image accuracy over anything else. Even then, the C4 is very close. Inversely, if you're only interested in gaming and don't care too much about accuracy or features such as Dolby Vision or DTS, then the Samsung S90D is the better choice. The Samsung is a bit brighter and much more colorful than the LG, while also having low input lag and 4K at 144 Hz support. The Samsung also barely loses any of its brightness in game mode. Well, that's all we have to say about the LG C4. If you want a more detailed write-up on the TV, check out our written review. The link is in the description below. Until next time, I'm Abby from Ratings.com, where we help you find the best product for your needs. But unfortunately for LG, their primary competitors all use QD OLED panels, and those are noticeably more colorful. It's a colorful TV.